Instructor of the Year. Recipients of this award have trekked from various campuses in previous years. Central Lakes Brainerd, Bridgewater Wilmar, Vermilion, Fond du Lac, Normandale, Rochester, and many more. Some instructors are viewed by their students as any ordinary instructor, one who decides whether students can pass or not. However, this award recognizes the extraordinary instructor. This year's extraordinary instructor made students feel special because their instructor showed them that he cared. They not only improved their writing, but also learned about themselves. One of the students would have quit had it not been for this caring attitude, and it turned out to be their favorite class. This is a quote from that student. "I found strength in me that I didn't know was there. Not only strength, but I found a gift that could only be given by God. I found that I want to be a writer. I never, in my 37 years, ever knew what I wanted to be until now. I, for the first time, believed in myself because of a teacher that wouldn't let me give up on myself. Because he taught me, in order to be a better writer, I needed to be a better reader. I've never been able to accomplish so much. I want to thank him for believing in me when I didn't. My words could never repay him for what he taught me." From Minnesota State College, Southeast Technical College, Red Wing, let's congratulate Peter Beurskens.
Justin said I had 30 minutes. Is that about right? But really, he did tell me 5 to 10 minutes. And I'm looking at these other people that are up here like 30 seconds and out. So do you want 5 minutes? Or
yes.
should I just...
Yeah.
All right, here we go. So, free lecture. I want to thank Alicia. I haven't heard those words, and that's very kind of. I think the greatest thanks I ever got before this was a student had a husband who was a big hunter, and she gave me some like a venison sausage. So this is nice, and then thank Justin and the Student Association for putting this on, making this possible. So Justin said I could make a few remarks about teaching and learning, and about my students, and so I'm going to do that. First of all, the focus in my teaching, can you hear me? Okay. The focus is on mystery and serendipity. I use an approach that I borrowed from Robert Frost called education by poetry. And education by poetry is messy. Frost said that poetry was a stay against confusion. I'm not sure in my class if it's necessarily a stay against confusion or an aid to it, but that's the approach I take. So this mystery and serendipity, we could also borrow a theological term and call it grace, I suppose, although I've never been called a gift from God. I'll give you an example of a small kind of serendipitous bit of grace that happened to me. When I was about 7th or 8th grade in a little town in Iowa, I was forced to take home ec. Do you people know what home ec is? And I was not happy. In fact, I was quite upset to be taking home ec, especially the sewing part of home ec. I hated the sewing part. And back in those old days, they had these wooden sewing machine tables where the sewing machine flipped up. And in the class, I decided it was a good idea to, can you cover Noah's ears? Got my little son here. Okay, I etched a naughty word in the top of the sewing machine table with a needle, right? It was my first act of publishing, I guess. The teacher, Mrs. Asinius, who was the principal's wife in this little town of 100 people, knew where I sat, knew who I was, knew my attitude, and she knew that was my language. So she actually grabbed me. Now I could sue her for that. She grabbed me, propelled me to the library, where another teacher, even harder, Mrs. Hardacre, I'm not kidding you, she was a nurse on Guam during World War II. I'm not making it up. And she took me, I tend to exaggerate, I write fiction, but she took me, I think, by the ear, let's say, and shoved me up to the bookshelf of the library and said, Mr. Beurskens, do something constructive instead of destructive for a change. Read a book. So, again, I'm 7th or 8th grade. I reach out in anger, I grab a book, didn't look at it, sat down, but it was The Hobbit by Tolkien, and I took to it. And I had been a bit of a reader before, but not a real serious one. And Tolkien led me to Beowulf and to Charles Dickens and Willa Cather and Flannery O'Connor and G.K. Chesterton and Wendell Berry and Scott Russell Sanders, which brings us to Alicia and my other students in College Writing 2. They've just finished reading Wendell Berry's What Are People For? That's the title of the book, What Are People For? And like the title, the book asks a lot of questions. It doesn't answer them necessarily. And so some of the questions that it raised for me is, what are students for? What are teachers for? What is an education for? What are colleges for? And what, in fact, are writing and reading assignments for? Well, this, as I tell my students, calls for speculation, which is a Perry Mason reference, but they don't usually do it. And then I pondered this. Some answers I came up with, the students had some of their own, were people are not mere animals, nor are they mere machines or mechanisms. Colleges are not mere businesses or mere industries. Teachers are not mere, and I saw this in print, teachers are not mere instructional delivery units. I get the Instructional Delivery Unit Award of the Year. And students are not mere products that we crank out or mere widgets. They're also not mere customers. Writing assignments should not be mere hoops that students have to jump through. They should have meaning, nor should they be mere objects for institutional assessment, for A-Click. Okay. Won't get on that high horse. Okay. So, therefore, given all this, how should I teach and how should we learn in the classroom? The answer is I'm not sure. It doesn't really encourage my students much when I admit that, but I'm not sure I can teach them how to write. So I give them a lot of good reading and ask them to read that and try to write like that. I do try hard to offer, in a kind of old-fashioned way, writing that is good, true, and beautiful. Kind of sounds corny, but that's what I've come to after 25 years of teaching. That's the main thing. Not so much what I say, but if I give them writers who try to speak the good, the true, and the beautiful. So this is why Alicia and her fellow sufferers in college writing too are now reading The Road by Cormac McCarthy. Do you know that? Mm-hmm. Yeah, you might be wondering where's the beauty. But I think it is dark. It is a bloody post-apocalyptic story of a father and son, well, my son's age, trying to survive in a bloody, ashen, cruel, horror-stricken world. But I think McCarthy does give us glimpses of real beauty in the book. And I was going to read from it, but I'll go on to it. Especially at the end, we have all this, but we have glimpses of beauty, and there are intense glimpses of that throughout the book, more than in the film. This past week with the events in Boston and Philadelphia and West Texas and DC, the poison letters, the explosions, and all of that, I myself was experiencing a kind of crushing awareness of just the evil and the ugliness instead of the goodness and the beauty in the world. I felt almost physically bent over. Did you feel that? I mean, this stuff goes on all the time, I guess, but it seemed to concentrate last week. But I was in my office really early Thursday morning trying to catch up on the paper grading. Jarrett and others here may have had to wait for my papers. So I got in there really early, and I was bent by all these events. But by grace or a happy accident, my mind went back to the variety show at Southeast Tech. We have this instrument building program repair. We have wonderful musicians. And at the variety show, 3 young women sang and played the old African American spiritual, I'll Fly Away. And they did it. At least 2 of those were handmade instruments. It was so beautiful. It was so nice. And so then, I'm kind of a Luddite, but I opened my laptop and I went to this thing called YouTube, and I put it I'll Fly Away. And I brought up Alison Krauss's beautiful rendition of that, with the nice flowers and the birds and everything, and that somebody put together on the video. Where am I going with this? Okay, just a minute. Well, I turned back to my grading, feeling a little better, and a student of mine named Caleb had written an essay about music. It was a response to the great writer Ralph Ellison's elegant essay, Living with Music. And in the paper, the student Caleb had quoted the song I'll Fly Away. It was an important part of the paper, which I thought was serendipitous. And also he quoted Ellison, quoting a line that Ellison himself had heard in a time of need on a jazz station. And the line was this: "Art thou troubled? Music will not only calm thee, but ennoble thee." Ennoble. I like that. That day it might have been a little cheesy, but I played I'll Fly Away in all my classes. And just told me you're just going to have to suffer through this. So, the serendipity, the mystery, the grace in all of this and I'm wrapping up. Is that I assigned Ellison's essay for Caleb and others to write about without a really full awareness of it. I knew this was nice, this was elegant, this was well done, but I hadn't really absorbed its meaning. And it took Caleb, that student, to give me that image back in his essay before I could understand it in the time that I needed it. So that was a serendipity there. And finally, the word you've been waiting for, finally, Alicia, I suspect the essay that prompted her to nominate me was one that she wrote in response to an essay by Scott Russell Sanders. And she nominated me. I describe myself here as sometimes reluctant, often uncertain, occasionally moody, rather self-critical teacher, who walks around. When Melissa told me I won the award, I was walking to class with my head down because I was thinking, I really should go drive a truck or something. I come from a blue-collar background, but this is too hard, I can't do this. But this essay that she wrote was in response to this Scott Russell Sanders essay, which was a combination of goodness and evil, truth and lies, beauty and ugliness. I mean, he was dealing with all of that stuff. G.K. Chesterton said, a sane man is one who keeps tragedy in his heart and comedy in his head at the same time, because that's kind of what life gives us. Skipping stuff. Okay. But Alicia, I think, had found a teacher in Sanders, not in me so much. She had thought with Sanders. I tell them to think with the writers that I give them. But then she had also created something very much her own, something that was quite as beautiful and remarkable and true as Sanders has said. And that's just what I wrote on her paper. And I got a lot more here, but I guess that's why I'm here today, because a student read something, learned. I didn't know this, but gained confidence in writing, and I had more to say, but I'll stop there.